to feel like Formula One is I don't understand the rules.
The greatest Formula One champion of all time.
And Formula One is that it's like a traveling circus of speed and adrenaline.
Except I am from Formula.
People know NASCAR, but people don't, because Formula One is like, it's a whole different thing.
Box and pick confirm, and welcome to the Redefined podcast, a podcast where we put American subtitles on the sport of Formula One. I am your host, Frederick Kernigan, and with me, as always, my co-host, Michael Timmerman, aka Timmy. He's zooming in on screen here.
What's up?
So in today's episode, we're doing our predictions for the 2022 Drivers Championship. We're, putting in place who we think is going to go from 20th all the way up to first, but we're doing it in the same format as the qualifying, or it's a knockout format. We're going to do the first five, so 20th through 16. We're going to give our quick thoughts on that, so we don't, it is a pretty meaty episode. And then we're going to do 15 through 11, go into a slightly more in-depth explanation, but still not all the way. And then our top 10, we're going to, go really into depth when it comes to that kind of stuff. But before we get into that, we always like to start the episode off with non-F1 related stuff. So, Timmy, I'm going to ask you a question that makes me happy. I don't know how
I know it's coming.
But how do you feel about losing Khalil Mack to the Chargers? Before you say anything, let me say I have no hate against Bears fans. If you guys are in pain or any other Bears fans are in pain, I'm sorry. You guys have to get rid of them. But what makes me happy is I see Raider fans tweeting about it. They're like, it pains me to see Khalil in a Chargers jersey because he was drafted by the Raiders.
Yeah.
And so, it makes me so happy. So any sad Bear fan, I feel bad for. But any sad Raider fan, just chef's kiss, bro.
Initially, my first initial reaction was what the hell? What are we doing? But then as time went on and the biggest thing was the Chargers took the rest of Khalil Mack's contract. So they're paying them $65 million for the 3 years. And we've opened so much cap space to then re-sign our young talent and then go after free agency. And then we made a couple more moves, releasing Eddie Goldman and then releasing someone else that I can't remember right now. Oh, Danny Trevathan. So our GM is cleaning house. Ryan Poles, he's like, Ryan Pace, your roster garbage. You're out of here. You're out of here. So I'm. My initial reaction was heartbroken. I have a Khalil Mack jersey.
you can ship that over to me. Ship it on over. I have colored in blue.
Oh, dang, that sucks. But for the future, for hopefully we're investing in long-term sustainable success. So that's what I'm not optimized.
You're hoping for.
Optimistic about our future. This season does not count. We're ignoring this season, and skip this season. Doesn't matter who wins. The Bears aren't going to be good. But I don't hate it anymore. I like it more and more as time goes on. He has a plan and he's executing that plan, and I mess with that.
I'm just hyped that. For the longest time growing up, I was irritated at the fact that it always felt like the Chargers never really played the free agency game or made any moves for big name players. So now that surfboard Tom Telesco is out here making moves, I'm with it. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, bro. I'm for it.
I know now you have more than just a Bosa.
Yeah. Now he's what's his name? Melvin Ingram, but better.
Way better. So I'm happy. Well, if he stays healthy, that's the biggest thing. I wish Bears fans were we couldn't get more than a second and a six. It's he's coming off a season-ending foot injury. He's 31 years old. His contract is
It's pretty big.
huge. It's an elite contract for someone that hasn't been putting up elite numbers.
Yeah.
Like he's like obviously he does he still commands a lot of attention, still commands a lot of respect, and demands double teams a lot of the time. But for where the Bears are, it makes sense to get as much draft picks or draft capital as possible, and that's like what they got. So I'm okay with it.
Everyone thought Seattle was clearing house. Chicago said, "Here, hold my beer."
Yeah, but
But
Seattle's like full rebuild. They don't even have a quarterback right now. So
I'm telling you, Drew Lock. They have the Alex Albon. Oh wait, no, not Alex Albon. The Nicholas Latifi.
Nicholas Latifi.
Yeah. But anyways, going into F1, we're gonna talk about our first five, or I guess our bottom five first. Me and Timmy agree with 20th through 18, and then the differences start at 17. So I'm gonna list our bottom three real quick. We both have Guan Yu Zhou 20th, K Mag, who's a story we'll get into, but we have him at 19th, and then Mick Schumacher, the baby legend, we have him at 18th. So do you want to say why we have him at the bottom three?
So at least for my prediction, these guys aren't going to score any points. The way they're ordered is based on their finishes. So I suspect Mick to average higher finishes than K-Mag and Zhao. And that's really it. Like I expect that's like how I order them. I expect Mick to do better than Mag. I expect Mag to do better than Zhao, but they're not going to score any points in my opinion. I think maybe the highest they finish is a crazy 14 for Mick, but other than that, like it's pretty bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, no, I agree. The Zhou prediction is pretty set. He's a rookie, and it's not like he was lighting up the world in F2 either. So he comes in with Alpha. They're with looking at Barcelona testing and then now Bahrain testing. They have reliability issues at the beginning of the season. So it'll be interesting to see how a rookie not only has to get along with a teetering car, if you would call it that, because we haven't seen it yet. So they could either be sandbagging like crazy or like actually having legitimate problems for the future. And so if Bottas can get a handle of it, which I feel like he can, I don't think Zhou is going to have that same like immediate connection with it, even though he has put out some decent times in testing. But yeah, I agree, not going to get a point. I think, in fact, he will probably spin out the most just because he has to learn F1 and it's a new reg. Like what he drove in F2 is now a different philosophy in F1 because it's ground effect now.
I expect him to kind of perform like Yuki last year, but he's in a worse car, so yeah, he doesn't have the benefit of having a better car than I think 4 or 5 of the teams. So yeah, even if you have a bad day, you can still finish 10th or 9th.
Yeah, no.
With Alfa Romeo, their car is bottom 3, if not bottom 2, and with him being a rookie and not having a great early career like in F2, I agree with like kind of what you're saying. He's gonna have a lot of spin outs. He's gonna have a lot of crashes.
Yeah.
And that car hasn't shown to be reliable. So I feel like they're gonna have a lot of malfunctions too.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, Bottas seems to have a curse with like car malfunction. So he might bring that over from Mercedes and have a bunch of pit stops go wrong on the team as well.
Yeah. No, but going on to Magnussen now, we kind of see it as him just being the guy who's coming back off of F1. He's supposed to be in IndyCar this season, but the whole Nikita Mazepin thing happened. So he filled in the spot. And so it's interesting to see how he's going to perform, whether or not he's talented. I think in years past he's shown that, but a year and a half is a year and a half out of F1. And so there's no way around it. He has to knock off the rust. Like even Alonso had a little bit of like rust to knock off, and he's a 2-time world champion. Not saying Mag is like so much worse than him. It's a reality that everyone has to face. And so along with that, the Haas car, I feel like even though they're putting up these crazy times in testing, feel like it's more suited, or they're just turning it up to get the eyes of maybe would-be sponsors. Like, hey, maybe they're taking a step up this year, and they have 2 like, you know, decent drivers, but I feel like they're trying to catfish a sponsor.
Well, they also had spent all their resources last year creating this car, right?
Mm-hmm.
So unlike the other teams, they've had a year, like a full year of developing this car. So I was watching a YouTube video, and they're kind of explaining that the Haas car like is actually probably like it's a lot better in the beginning of the season, but the competition and the other teams are only going to catch up as the season goes on. So Haas might surprise in the first race with like a higher placement than they usually do, but after the second or third race, they'll be back in the bottom where they usually finish.
I can see that. You can see that for sure. But that same, I guess that reasoning is also why we won't put Mick higher than 18th.
Yeah.
Yeah, both of us agree that the car, unless it shows out or a crazy race happens, neither of them are scoring points. But Mick being embedded into the team a whole year prior, I guess Mag has like, Mag has prior years, the 4 that he spent with them, but you never know what could have changed in that year and a half. It's now clearly Mick's team.
Yeah.
With a fan favorite or a team favorite also driving with them, because Mick has been the focus and the one driving the car ever since last year. But yeah, so with the bottom 3 being, you know, what they are pretty quickly, me and Timmy disagree on 17th. 17th, I have Nicholas Latifi, and 16th, I have Alex Albon. Who do you have for 17th and 16th?
I just have them flip. So 17, I have Albon, and then 16, I have Latifi. My reasoning, I think Albon's coming off, or is his first year back, right?
Yeah,
he's coming off a year rest, or not a year rest, a year of not having a seat in Formula One. So I believe he's going to have that kind of rust of getting used to the Williams car, where Latifi was there last year. He's been a part of the team. He's had the kind of, I guess, more recent experience, and he's older too. So he's like more seasoned as well. So that's why I have him over Albon. I think the Williams might be able to sneak in some points, which kind of goes against my original team predictions, but hopefully Bottas can surprise people and carry. But yeah, and now like seeing the more and more of the testings, I'm like thinking Williams will probably be the 8 team and Alpha would be the 19. But so these guys, they either don't score points or they score points in one race because there's a huge crash or something crazy happens.
I know I had mentioned earlier the whole like ring rust or like track rust with K-Mag being out, but I feel like it's a little different with Alex, because he wasn't a complete like out of F1. He was a test driver. So he didn't get any like wheel-to-wheel action or like any, I don't know if he got any FP or like free practice sessions for Red Bull, but he drove in their sim. He drove in like when they were trying to recreate the crashes between Lewis and Max. He was the one driving and stuff. So it's not like he was completely out of F1, but it still wasn't, nothing can replace real F1 track time, like race track time. So I don't feel like the ring rust will affect him as great as, say, someone like K-Mag or someone as Alonso, because he was still kind of hanging around the paddock. So that took away the whole doubt in my mind that that'll hold him back under Latifi. I feel that one little year out of F1, if anything, will play as a motivator for him to like show out and you guys shouldn't have let me like go for the year. I should have had a seat. Whereas Latifi is going to have all that pressure of this is now my team. I now have to perform because George is gone. I'm the guy. I've been the guy for the past 3 years who's been a part of the team. So it only makes sense. And so I feel like he's going to put a lot of pressure on himself. And I don't think he's that guy to handle the pressure or handle number one spot. So Albon is slowly going to win the team over. And I agree. Maybe a crazy race happens. Albon snakes an eighth, a seventh, but that'll only further the swing of, I guess, backing from the inner team from Latifi to Albon, and then Albon's going to slowly become their guy.
Yeah, I can see that happening. They're very interchangeable for the Williams drivers. Yeah. So it just really come down to who consistently qualifies and race better, which is kind of how Formula One works.
Sound like Will Buxton.
Oh, don't get me started with that guy.
But yeah, so that's our bottom five. I'll repeat mine real quick. It's Guan Yu Zhou, K Mag, Mick Schumacher, Nicholas Latifi, and then Alex Albon at 16.
Yeah, mine Zhou, K Mag, Mick, Alex Albon, and then Latifi.
Okay, so now on to Q2. The next five that are knocked out. I'll let Timmy go and say his five.
Yeah, so I have Bottas at 15, Lance Stroll at 14, Yuki at 13, Esteban Ocon at 12, and then Sebastian Vettel at 11.
Okay, do you want to go and explain your picks?
Yeah, so the reason why I have this lineup, I think Sebastian, being the seasoned vet, being in a good car with Aston Martin, is going to perform well. He's going to consistently place probably 12th through 8th, I think, would probably be his range of placements. He'll obviously get some higher finishes depending on how like the races go and who crashes, whose car malfunctions and stuff. I have the most faith in him in being the most consistent out of these 5 drivers. So that's why I have him at 11. Esteban Ocon, I think the Alpine car is a top end car, not top end, but like middle tier car where he's good enough to score points, and the car itself will help him like put him in positions to be able to score those points. But I think Sebastian has the slight edge on him just because of his experience. And then Yuki and Strolls are taking a step up from last year. I think Yuki, it might just be the Drive to Survive episode on him, making me a little biased. Like, I love the dude now. Like, he is funny. He's a funny guy. He's just a funny Japanese kid. Yeah, who just like has he learned English through driving. So he's a very aggressive English speaker, and he's a little angry on the road. So I love him, but I think he's gonna do better, take a big step this year, hopefully. But I still don't think that he'll consistently perform like expectations of him will. So I have him at 13. Lance Stroll, dude, I gotta see it. I have to see him show me why I should trust him.
Stroll? No,
I'm not. I still think that he's just the dad's son that's on the team. Like, the money got him there. So I have to see proof for a reason to put him up higher than 14. And Bottas, I have Bottas at 15 simply because Alfa Romeo, their car is really bad, but I think his driving skills will make him get enough points to score 15. I don't think any of these guys get a win though.
I would agree with your last 2 points there. I'll say mine real quick. I have Ocon at 15, Bottas at 14, Alonso 13th, Stroll 12th, Yuki 11th. But the Bottas point you had made, I do agree. I think Bottas is gonna outperform his car. just because he's had experience, he has the pace to put himself in a decent qualifying position, and then hopefully only improve off of that. But you never know with Bottas. Sometimes he will put in an absolute heater of a lap and then kind of just disappear throughout the race. Or I haven't seen him go toe to toe and like come out on top. So I think if he starts battling, he'll start falling back. But I do think he's going to outperform the car and put himself at a higher place than what Zhou does, just because of his experience. But I don't think Ocon is going to outperform the car. I think he's going to show how weak that car really is. And that's why I have him underneath Bottas. Like I have Ocon at 15th, because you think that not the Aston Martin car, but the Alpine car is like an upper tier midfield car. From what I've been seeing in like the testing and whatnot, it seems as if they have gremlins in their car that they can't figure out. And so hopefully they put the fire out before it becomes a huge forest fire. It's a little like Ember, but I don't see it. And as I said in previous episodes, still not sold on Ocon. Nothing against the dude. Like I said, last episode was when it was circumstantial. So I think he's going to show the benchmark of the car, whereas Alonso, who I have at 13th, is going to outperform the car. Because Alonso is an absolute genius when it comes to motorsports. Like, he raced in WEC, the World Endurance Champion. He's just a racing addict. So him being who he is just going to naturally raise the car, because he even did it last year. He whipped like magical qualifying performances out of nowhere, and he defended against Hamilton. So himself is going to outperform that car and carry it to 13th, but I don't see him getting any higher. So yeah, what did I have? I said Ocon 15, Bottas 14, Alonso 13th. And as far as Stroll goes, I think Stroll is gonna do better than what you had said. You had him at what? 14th. I'm also not sold on Stroll. Like I said in previous episodes, I'm not the president of his fan club, nor am I even a part of it. But the car seems to be decent enough, and hopefully, if he learns under Seb by just watching and being in his, in the same vicinity, he can take a step up naturally. So that's why I have him at 12th. And then Yuki, I think the AlphaTauri car is going to reflect the Red Bull car into the point where they're performing well in certain tracks. But I don't see him competing top 10, Yuki, just purely off of consistency. Consistency comes with experience. And so he flew through his younger categories. His F1 career up to this point has been very roller coaster. Started off Bahrain, super good, and like it's been all over the place. Ended 4th in Abu Dhabi. So, but in the middle of the season, he had a couple crashes and qualifying during the race that really put the halt on his hype train. So I think if he doesn't get the consistency under wraps, he's just bound to be 11th, in my opinion. Yeah, that's my reasoning on the top 5, or the middle 5. Anything else to add?
Anything else to add? Ignore Alpine's problem by just looking at their nice pink and blue.
How can it be a problem if they look so nice?
Yeah, come on now.
Yeah,
but I see what you're saying about that. I think the AlphaTauri definitely has a better car than Alpine, but I think Yuki holds that team back, so I'm okay with Alpine still being higher than Alpha.
I'm seeing AlphaTauri perform decent during testing. I'm getting scared that they might challenge for 5th, and we have them both at 6th, but I'm looking at them. I'm like, maybe they get 5th, but I don't know. I still believe in Seb and just the Aston Martin team as a whole. So like, not really pull it all together in one year, but still come out on top as the battle for the midfield.
Really, with those teams and like these racers, it comes down to who can crash the least.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like who can be the most consistent driver.
And with a sport as crazy as F1, it really comes down to who can survive the wild card races, because you're gonna have those races.
These guys who benefits the most.
Oh yeah, like who capitalize on it.
Yes.
Yeah,
who
that's
puts himself in the position to get points, get way more points than they typically get.
Ocon usually does that pretty well.
Yeah, Ocon's
Yeah, so maybe we're looking at
nice.
this all wrong, or at least I am. But
That's why I got him up at 12.
I don't see it. I got him at 15.
We'll see,
But
yeah.
On to Q3 now, the top 10. We'll go 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. We'll go one by one. So I have at 10th, I have Sebastian Vettel. Who do you have at 10th?
I have Alonso.
Okay. So I have Seb at 10th because I think out of the three true midfield teams, because and I had said in episode 4 that McLaren is going to be in no man's land. They're not going to be competing for a podium, but they're not going to be fighting in the midfield. So out of the
which may not be true.
We'll see.
How their cars performing and testing. Whoever's that number 5 team might be fighting McLaren. We'll see.
But I think out of the true midfield teams, I think the Aston Martin car will be better. And going further into that, I think the better of the two Aston Martin drivers is Seb. And so he will come out of the top, out of the true midfield guys. So he's going to be firmly planted at 10. He's going to pick up races. I see him maybe even getting a 5th. I don't think he's going to finesse podiums this year. I know he got 1 last year, should have been 2, but the gas was stuck in their car and they couldn't get a sample out. That's so stupid. But yeah, no, I see him getting a 5th. That'll keep him at 10th in the overall standings, just purely because of his experience and the car not being complete trash. Why do you got Alonso at 10th?
Pretty much the same reason you got Sebastian at 10th, except
you're back in the Alpine.
Yeah, I mean, I put them at 5th. I gotta believe that their car's pretty good. Right? So it's pretty much the exact same reason. He's a veteran who's super smart on the track, who's able to capitalize on opportunities to get the points that he needs to get, and who consistently, I think more often than not, he will be in the top 10. I feel like he'll highest finish maybe like 5th. Definitely needs some help, but I don't think, unless we get a crazy crash like last year, I don't see him finishing higher than 5th or 4th. So, but I think he consistently finishes like 10 through 7. I can see him like, depending on how those the other guys perform, he can consistently get points throughout the year.
He'll be that guy to make up on like the regular wild card races.
Yeah.
So we basically had the same reason, just different casting characters.
Mm-hmm.
However, we both agree on 9. Looking at it, we both agree that Daniel Ricciardo is gonna be stuck at 9th, which is what he was last year, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah, no, he was 8th, so he'd be taking a step back. But I'll start it off. I don't think it's tough knowing that it isn't his fault that he missed testing, but being down 200 laps to your teammate in a car that Lando was showing to have its own gremlins, like there's something wrong with that car, whether it's the front wing, ride height, or whatever it may be. There's something isn't clicking, and we saw how Daniel Ricciardo was affected by what he just couldn't get, or what he chalked up to him not being able to understand the car. And so he's already down 200 laps because unfortunately he did get COVID, but it's not looking good for him already. So that's why I have him at 9th. And I still have, even though McLaren had a bad showing, I think their facilities and their faculty, like Zach Brown, Andreas Seidel. There you go. Andreas Seidel, their team principal. I think those two guys aren't going to let this team fumble the bag. I think they're going to somehow fortify and just hold down the fort, and either they fix their car mid-season and they get it to compete like how it should be, or how we're all hyping it up to be, or they just fortify and defend from the bottom guys, the bottom midfield teams.
I think McLaren also has the best driving pair out of the midfield with
Mhm.
Daniel and Lando. Lando's like heads and shoulders above, I think, the rest of the midfield.
Mhm.
So he'll definitely be carrying most of the weight. I had Daniel at 8, but similar reasons to what you're saying. The being down 200 laps is pretty big, but more so, I just don't think I don't know how much of an improvement he's gonna like, or I don't know if he's gonna be able to figure it out this year because he couldn't figure it out all last year. So I'm not sure. And it's like a new car, so it's not like I have a year under my belt. It's like a whole new car and everything.
Mhm.
So he's shown that he can't really pick up like new cars and new like problems quickly because he had similar issues with Renault, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
his first season was kind of mid, and then
Yeah.
second season he bounced back for sure.
Yeah, so hopefully he's able to bounce back, but just looking back at his history, he's shown that he's a slow learner, which like not saying he's dumb or anything, but it like takes him kind of he's not quick to pick up new cars and like how
Yeah.
they work and everything. So that's why I ended up putting him at 9. And also with the testing with the McLaren, it's not showing out all that well, but I shouldn't take too much. Should always take testing with a grain of salt because you never know who's sandbagging, who's really going all out. But I hope he proves me wrong. I hope he does have a bounce back year because I do like Daniel. I think he's a fun personality, but I don't see him going higher than I think there's 8 better drivers than him on the track.
That's fair. I the only piece of like counter argument that I can offer against him, not being able to get a hold of this year's car is apparently listening to reports and listening to like other drivers and people who actually know Daniel. The way they speak about him is he's very confident and the vibes around him have to be correct in order for him to perform. And it's been a while since he's been home. Like he misses family because he's from Australia, and Australian COVID restrictions were pretty stringent. And so he didn't see family for a whole, I think it was almost 2 years, if that. And so now that he's finally got back home, got to see family, got to really reconnect and just, I don't want to say repair his soul like some of the girls who rub rocks and crystals together, but so doing that, seeing family and whatnot is good for the soul. And I don't know. I agree with you. I would want to see him prove me wrong, prove all the people who are doubting him wrong, because he is such a electric, or not electric, but just a magnetic personality that you want to root for him. I don't know any Danny Rick haters like who want the downfall on him. I just know like Danny Rick trolls, like, oh, Danny Rick lost it and whatnot. But no one, I don't know. I feel like no one really hates him.
Yeah.
So yeah. But being liked on track and performing on track are two separate things. And yeah. But looking at 8, we both agree once again that Pierre Gasly is gonna be at, stuck at 8. So I'll let Timmy go and explain why he thinks Gasly's gonna beat Ricardo.
I think the AlphaTauri car is looking good. I think Gasly takes another step forward with his ability to drive, and he's really it's his contract year, if I'm not mistaken, too, right? Like his
Mm-hmm.
contract's up, so it's a contract year. He has all the motivation in the world to show every team out there that he can be your number one driver. Maybe he takes over, he gets back into the Red Bull second seat and takes over for Checo. Never know, or he goes somewhere else. Maybe he replaces Daniel in McLaren if Daniel doesn't perform this year. So I think he has all the motivation to really go out there and prove everyone that he is a good driver and that he is a good pickup to be on the team. I think he's been on AlphaTauri for as many years as he has, knows the team really well. They know him. He's their number one driver, so they're going to be supporting him the most. And I think he's just going to perform. I hope he's going to be more consistent than he's like has been in the years past. So, but I think he's going to perform pretty well this year. But I have him at 8. That's why I have him at 8.
Okay, I have him at 8 for similar reasons. The only thing that I think you failed to mention to support our like placing of him is I think he's going to outperform the AlphaTauri. I think the AlphaTauri car wise will probably be the fifth fastest car, but Yuki will hold him back like we had both mentioned prior. I think Gasly's going to punch as high as he can punch. And the highest person that he can like snake would be Daniel Ricciardo, because the McLaren car is going to struggle. Daniel Ricciardo is going to struggle in the beginning. So that's when, Gasly gets the decent lead on him. I don't think Gasly or the AlphaTauri in theory has enough to punch up and catch Lando, because Lando is, pretty solid, or not pretty solid, but pretty set in that team and in that car already, doing as many laps as he did. And Lando being Lando, he's not a slouch driver either. He's a decent driver, or not a decent driver, but he's a good driver.
Yeah.
And
He's definitely one of the best drivers on the track.
Yeah. So I don't think he's going to punch up and catch Lando, but I
No.
do think he will catch and pass Daniel Ricciardo, which will only, further your point that you had mentioned, his contract here. This is the year that Pierre is going to sell Pierre, because he has to. I don't think he wants to forever teeter at AlphaTauri, even though as, healthy as it seems for him, because he knows the team, it's pretty business as usual for him. He goes into work, sees the faces he's seen for years, and just continues to perform. I don't think he wants that for forever, as nasty as that sounds. He wants the challenge for the upper places. So he's going to sell himself to either Mercedes. Hopefully, I think he's going to be shooting gold standard for Red Bull. But you never know with that whole like upper management, maybe like you had said, McLaren maybe. So he's going to try to sell the best version of himself for this season.
Yeah, I agree. I think we also have the same for 7
Yes.
with Lando.
Yes.
You want to go into why you have Lando at 7?
Lando, same reason I kind of the same reason I have Gasly. He's going to outperform the car, but the top 3 cars are just so far ahead of him, or I feel like they're going to be so far ahead of McLaren that he's just going to be left outside the club. Like he's going to be left looking in like, dang, I wish I could consistently mix it up with those guys, but McLaren won't be able to consistently produce a race like a higher end race car for all 22 races. I'm not saying that they're going to drop the ball this season, but say 15 out of the 22, they bring a very competitive to at least a competitive car. But I wouldn't be surprised if some of the races they pull up with an absolute, what people call stonkers, or just crap. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I have a Lando at 7, pretty much the same reason. Their car is the 4th best car, I think, on the track. So you have, unfortunately, that puts them default at 7 when the top 6 drivers have better cars, and they're not slouches. They're all killers in their own right. I think Lando he'll get some podiums. He might actually get his first win this year if things fall his way and Daniel isn't in front of him. I think we'll talk about it a little bit later, but there's a part in Drive to Survive where Daniel is P1 and Lando is P2, and then Lando is like not begging, but he was asking to switch places to get the win, and the team's like, no. You hold your position. Danny,
made me so happy.
Uncle Danny Rick's gonna get the dub.
Yeah.
But I agree with all the points that you said. He's definitely gonna be competing with the top 6. He'll definitely have top 5, top 4, and podium finishes. But it's not gonna. The car's not there. If anything, it took a step back from last year. Like maybe if they took a step forward from their last year's car, I can possibly see him snaking Perez, maybe even George, if depending on like how he performs. But I think their car took a step back this year, so it's gonna just make it harder for him to actually break into the top 6.
Yeah, I agree. We also have 6 as the same. We both agree it's Checo. We had mentioned that there's an obvious top 3 cars. It's the Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, and so each team has 2 drivers, meaning that there's 6 spots, and Checo just unfortunately is the 6th best driver out of those 6. He isn't a bum driver. He isn't terrible, but he's known for one thing, and that's saving his tires and being smart. There are some tracks that you can't do that. You have to have like straight out pace. Checo doesn't have that. Monaco's a track like that. So, you add those tracks up, he's gonna fall back down to 6th. So it really isn't, I see him gonna do this, or I see him, he's not gonna do that. He's just gonna be defaulted into 6th. As much as I want him to do good, because this picture above, I want to see the Checo success. But I just think it's gonna be defaulted to him. I do see him maybe snaking a race win. Hopefully it's in Mexico. That'd be sick. That'd be absolutely nuts, because
that'd be crazy.
What he get 3rd in last year's race, and they had that whole stadium going nuts.
Yeah.
So if Mans get a win in Mexico, oh dude, he's gonna shut it down.
That'd be so cool.
Yeah, because you see like how Lewis, when he wins the British Grand Prix in Silverstone, that place goes crazy. When Max won the Dutch Grand Prix in Zandvoort last year, orange smoke everywhere,
dude. I love
that.
So Mexico would go nuts.
Yeah,
absolutely nuts for this man.
Like the F1 gods, if you have like an oracle who writes poetic endings, please write a Checo win in Mexico, because I think that'll just be the cherry on top of the season. Because once again, like how we had mentioned about Daniel Ricciardo, no one really hates Checo. I haven't seen any straight up like Checo hate. Like everyone, I think the most Checo negativity I saw was when he got the seat for Red Bull, and that was purely off of like fanboys for like Gasly, fanboys for like Albon, who were like anti giving up their seat or losing their seat to a Checo. So I agree. Hopefully he gets a win.
Yeah, I think he'll get one. Lewis and Max are gonna. I think the battle continues this year, where
it's
they're
gonna
knock each other out a couple of races.
It's gonna be it's a marathon, not a sprint type deal.
Yeah. Into turn 1.
Yeah.
Oh, that was funny. But I agree. He's the top 3 cars are leagues, maybe not leagues, but definitely a huge step ahead of everyone else. I think the gap between Lando and Perez is going to be pretty significant, where the last race, if not the last 2 or 3 races, won't affect it all that much. It might close the gap, but you won't be able to overtake him. And Perez is definitely the 6 out of 6 drivers of the top 3, in my opinion.
Yeah. We once again, I guess we agree from 9 all the way up to 5th. Yeah.
All the way to 5th. Yeah.
Because for 5th, we both have George Russell at number 5. But why do you have him at number 5? I think we have him there for different reasons.
Yeah, I have him at number 5 because I think Ferrari has their car is better than last year. Not sure if it's actually, I think Red Bull probably has the best car. And you might be thinking, was like, why is Perez at 6 then? It's because that car is built for Max to optimize all his strength. And Checo doesn't really, he's not the same type of driver Max is. So I have George at 5 because I think Mercedes car is going to be good, but I think Ferrari is a lot closer to Mercedes than people may want to admit.
Mm-hmm.
But that's based on the testing and how Mercedes have kind of been like struggling a lot with their cars, and they still haven't got a hold on the porpoising issue. So they're still going down the straights, bouncing up and down real hard.
Headbanging.
Yeah, like heavy metal going on in the car.
Oh, wow.
I also think I'm a fan of George Russell. I'm on the hype train as well, but I'm a little more realistic. I'm not fully on board that George is gonna like blow everyone out of the water, that everyone's gonna be like, oh, he just needs a Mercedes car and he'll like do all these crazy things. And it's like, well, he's like shown it because he did race in a Mercedes car. You have to remember that he did that race for Lewis Hamilton. So you didn't have Lewis Hamilton on the track. Max was like back in 3rd. So he only had to fight Bottas for 1st place. And unfortunately that race ended with a puncture in his car malfunctioning or whatever. But I think he's the 5th best driver. That's really pretty much the reason I got. He's a great driver. He'll qualify high, but I think the Ferrari drivers and then Max and Lewis are better than him.
I agree in the placement on fifth, but the reasoning for me is a little different. I don't think he's the fifth best driver. I think he's actually a little bit higher. But what Mercedes had shown in testing is kind of iffy already. And then also, it'll be interesting to see George in the spotlight, because players in other sports, some players respond well to the small market hype, did you see this guy? Did you see this guy? But that's different than, ending up on the Patriots, whereas you were on the Jags before or whatnot. And then having like the national, or I guess in this world, worldwide attention on you. And it's no longer, will he get into the best seat? Now he is in the best seat. So there's no more up for him. Up is only winning championships. But there is now, or I guess the up used to be bigger than the down, like the possibility of him going down. But now, since he is in the top team, the possibility of like him dropping the ball is so much more large than him succeeding.
Yeah. So you're saying like he was a big fish in a small pond, and like players kind of thrive off that kind of being that big fish. But now he's in the ocean.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
He's with the sharks, like the killers of the killers of the top of the grid. Has all the not only the pressure of being and the most dominant top team, like 8-time constructors championship
in a row,
in a row. But he's also the second driver to Lewis Hamilton, which is also just another humongous amount of pressure of you being able to perform, because Lewis is going to be finishing pole second consistently most of the year. So it's like you have that pressure. It's like, well, if he's finishing pole in second, why aren't you up there? Like, why are you in fifth? Why are you in fourth? Why are you finishing lower than third, essentially?
And so I feel like that'll be an interesting storyline to like monitor throughout the year. Like, give me how George is adapting to Mercedes in the first couple races. Then I probably in the middle of the season be like, how is it? Like, how is the sustained pressure?
Yeah.
Because it's no longer we have a chance in this track. Maybe we can get him. Like how he was with Williams. Like there's tracks that suited the Williams car that like maybe they could sneak a point. He's now in a Mercedes. He's expected consistent points. And so it'll be interesting to watch how he responds to that. But now going into where you and I differ, who do you have closing out your best of the rest drivers? So number 4, your fourth place driver.
I have Carlos Sainz at number 4. He's there because I am a full believer that the Ferrari car is good, and I hope that they don't because I think last year they started out like their testing was really well, and then they kind of just like went downhill from there.
Ferrari?
I think
Ferrari, I can't remember their testing last year, but they started off like kind of bleh, and then middle of the season it was like a slight incline, and then mid-season break, and then they brought in a engine upgrade. I don't know if that was right before the summer break or right after it, but they had brought in an engine performance or upgrade, and that's what propelled them to beat McLaren.
Okay. I think so I think Carlos is probably one of the most consistent drivers on the track, who's a seasoned vet. He knows how to manage tires. He knows when to attack and when to defend. So that's why I have him at 4. And the car, I think Charles is gonna. I don't know. Like this is probably like the hardest, the toughest decision I had making this list is whether putting Carlos or Charles at 4, because they're they're so close and they're in the same car. So you can't really say like, oh, he has a better car, so he'll finish higher. It's really, really tough for me to say. My gut, I just went with my gut at the end of the day, saying that Carlos is going to finish 4th. I hope Charles kind of like figures it out and like really, really comes out and shines and shows like the type of driver that he people expect him to be or have expectations of him to be. So that's really kind of the reason why I put Carlos at 4. I think he'll do well, but he'll be behind Charles more often than not.
Okay. For fourth, I have Charles. I think I do agree on your point that the Ferrari car is good now. It is now a top three car, but when it comes down to the driver specifically, we had mentioned earlier, you had mentioned that Danny Rick is slow to like, I think the word you're looking for was adapt. Danny Rick is slow to adapt to like a new car.
Yeah.
And as much as we like to like think that, oh, they're just, they've been in the team for so long that they're just progressing over. This is a new reg. So everyone is in a new car. And I think if you flash back to last year, no one expected Carlos Sainz to get a hold of the Ferrari as quickly and as well as he did, because he was the one out of him, Danny, Checo, out of those three, he was the one who like started getting points more consistently, or like placing where people believe that he should have been quicker. Because I think Checo didn't start pulling it together to like the fourth or fifth race. Danny Rick took all the way up into Monza to really, really pull it together. And then Checo was up and down, up and down, up and down. And so history has proven it, or it's already written in history that Carlos can like adapt, but Charles, I don't know. Charles isn't like that. That's why I suspect Carlos to beat Charles. So yeah, like I have Carlos in my third place, but Charles, I think he's gonna, how do I put this? No one is going to be surprised if Charles wins a race. It's as if, can Charles not beat himself? Because he is such a fast driver, and some qualifying, like not Monza, but Monaco, he crashed into the wall. Or some races, he's not as aggressive like how people would say Max is aggressive. He's just kind of balls to the walls, sending it. And so maybe not mature enough, whereas Carlos has had some time and is adaptable. So that's the only reason why I put Carlos above Charles and Charles at fourth.
So you have Carlos at third.
Three. Yeah, because he is the more adaptable in my eyes of the two drivers.
Yeah, I have Charles at three. I think I put my gut, trying to follow my gut and listen to my gut reaction when I first initially made this list, was Charles showed that he could battle Lewis. He showed that he can have battles with Max if he had a better car. So that's why I was like, okay, they have a better car now. He's a fast driver, like you said. As long as he doesn't shoot himself in the foot by crashing into walls, this man's gonna be on podium consistently, I feel like.
Yeah.
I think Lewis, Max, and Charles are going to be the most consistent podium, in my opinion, this year. I think he's going to win. At least he's going to win one race. Like, I think, I mean, nothing's a sure bet, but pretty sure, like, him being in third, he has to win a race.
You would be comfortable with saying he's going to win a race?
Yes. I would also be comfortable with saying he wins 2 or 3 races. So that's what I believe. Because with Max and Lewis, I think the battle between them only gets more intense this year, especially with how last year ended.
Mm-hmm.
So I expect maybe a little more crashes. So they'll open the win. I feel like that Charles benefits the most from Lewis and Max going at each other. So as long as he's also on the track and not in the garage.
See that, like, once again, like I would piggyback off the same point you just make about how there will be like jeopardy because of the Lewis and Max rivalry, maybe firing up or whatnot. But I feel like Carlos is a better like capitalizer on those wild jeopardy moments, because look at him in Monaco last year. He just got second. Like he had Charles crash, and then the whole Valtteri thing. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he also had like an overtake in that race too. So he just like boom, 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 capitalized. All of a sudden, Carlos is second. And so
yeah, another point I just thought of, since Charles and Carlos are on the same team, if they're fighting with each other, it comes down to who has the faster pace.
Mhm.
And I give that edge to Charles, where once like you get into the later half of the season, the teams have to make, depending on how the points are set up and where they are positionally, you try to put your number one driver, your driver who has the points, in a better position to score more points.
Yeah.
So you have the team say like, hey, Carlos, you got to swap positions with Charles because he's got the faster pace or he has more points and we want to make sure that he gets a better finish. So I think because Charles is quicker, he'll finish higher. But I see your point. Carlos definitely adapts really well to new cars. He's a
Yeah.
fast learner. He's a fast adapter to new environments. So he'll definitely probably get ahead early on, but I think Charles gets the hang of it and
So
takes most of it.
you're siding on the side of pace, whereas I'm siding on the side of consistency and adaptability.
Yeah, I'm siding on that. I feel the Ferrari will back Charles more than they'll back Carlos.
Yeah, that's a hard argument for me to go against just because they did give Charles that fat contract and Carlos,
Yeah.
this is only his second year. So yeah, I think it's pretty eminent or pretty like evident that these guys would probably be interchangeable and we wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Same with the top two guys we have, but I have one guy winning and Timmy has the other guy winning. I'll go first. I have back-to-back. It's going Dutch. I have Max winning. I have Max winning it.
Max.
Yeah, exactly. I have Max winning it again back-to-back, and Lewis coming in second. I think Red Bull gets off to a hotter start than Mercedes. It's hard to bet against Mercedes. So I do think even if they do get off to a slow start, seeing how their testing went, seeing how their new innovative side pod design, it went over well when people were looking at it. They're like, wow, that looks so cool. But then,
Wow.
Yeah, but once it actually got like performing, there was, I keep using the term gremlins, but there were gremlins in the car. They had lockups here and there. So I think they're going to get off to a slower start than Max and Red Bull, but throughout the season, the gap's going to close and Mercedes is going to figure out their car, figure out the philosophy of this new regs, and then start challenging Max and, maybe make it closer, but I'm hoping that it's not as close and controversial. And I'm more hoping this is the way it ends, purely because once I feel like if Max wins this year, how I want him to win, like not take it all the way down to the last race, maybe win it by like the second to last race, that'll put to bed the whole Max didn't deserve to win it last year. Because as much as people like to discount his championship because it was so controversial, I think purely based off of pace and merit last year, it's hard to say that Max wasn't the best driver. Whereas Lewis just showed consistency and was like always there, didn't drop the ball. But Max put together some nuts like performances and outings where Lewis, I hate how people give so much credit to the car and like discount Lewis, but it was the same regs as last year. And so they kind of carried over a winning car, whereas Red Bull had to fight uphill. So that's my reasoning on why I think Max is going to be back-to-back champion.
I have the legend himself, gonna be soon to be 8-time world champion, Lewis Hamilton going first, Max finishing second. Biggest reason is now Lewis is the underdog. Now Lewis has been, listen. Have you looked at any of the articles or anything that they've been talking about? Red Bull's the team to beat. Red Bull's got a better car. Max is the reigning champion. He's the favorite to win it again. You're just fueling his fire to prove everyone that like, hey, I'm still here. I'm
still that guy.
Yeah. And also to anyone that thinks Michael Schumacher is better than me, get out of here. 8, baby. That's what I'm talking about. You also got a very, very, very angry Toto at
That's fair.
driving that team, and he's gonna push. He's gonna be like, Lewis, go get in there, Lewis, get in there. Yes, they're gonna have a slow start. Their car I think last year they had a slow start, but even though Max went on a 5-race win streak, Lewis still brought it to the last lap and would have won. He would have won if Latifi didn't try to overtake Mick Schumacher for 18th place. Like Lewis had that race in the bag. It was a win.
And then Michael Massey came and snipped the bag.
Yeah, and then he was like, no, only the lap cars in between the two guys can go. Everyone else, you stay behind because you're not important. So I think he has all the motivation in the world to prove everyone that he's better and that he should. And also the second half, Lewis in the second half of the season was terrifying. He was so scary. His pace was so much faster than anyone else on the track, even Max. Like he was killing people.
You know how like certain sports have like mythical creatures or like mythical figures?
Yeah.
Like what's one in Untucked Kyrie? Like when he untucked his jersey.
Hoodie Mellow.
What's another one? I'm trying to think of a football one. Face mask LeBron. Like Mask LeBron.
Mask LeBron.
There's like Cialis Anderson Silva. I don't know if you know about that one.
No, I don't.
Yeah. PP pills Anderson Silva when he was knocking out everyone. There's just a mythical figure. It's Lewis Hamilton with the Brazil engine. Just zoom in, dude. After Brazil, he was cooking.
Yeah. So I think it's gonna probably be similar to last season. Mercedes and Lewis come out with a slow start because Red Bull has the better car, but because it's Mercedes, they're gonna continue to figure it out. And Lewis has shown that he's the best driver, one of the best, if not the best driver in Formula One history up to this point.
It's hard to bet against someone who's so dominant for so long.
Yeah, and if there's one thing I've learned, he can drive. Or if you take Lewis's words, which he shouldn't, to heart, this man can drive on no tire grip whatsoever. he'll get new tires, and like after 2 laps, he's like, I've lost all traction, and then continue to race on those tires for 50 laps. It's like setting fastest time. It's like what? How? This doesn't make any sense. This man's just a god, I guess. Like. But so I have him coming back, getting his 8th title, maybe riding it off into the sunset after this.
Nah, I don't. I do agree. I do think Lewis is gonna come with like crazy hunger that he hasn't come with before, but it's hard to deny. Just like what's this? I think there's a saying like there's like an undeniable wave of that's what the future is. It's just you can't stop it, and that's what Max is he's the future. He's just gonna come and sweep over.
Doesn't have to stop it. He just has to go with it and be faster.
That's fair. But yeah, those are our 20 drivers, and that was our top 10. So Timmy, if you want to go and run down your 20 through first place real quick, just to get it out there one more time.
Yeah, so I have Zhao at 20, 19th K-Mag, 18th Mick, 17th Albon, 16th Latifi, 15th Valtteri Bottas, 14th Stroll, 13th Yuki, 12th Esteban Ocon, 11th Sebastian, 10th Alonso, 9th Daniel, 8th Gasly, 7th Lando, 6th Perez, 5th George, 4th Carlos, 3rd Charles, 2nd Super Max, and then 1 Lewis Hamilton.
I have 20th is Guan Yu Zhou, 19th is K-Mag, 18th is Mick, 17th is Nicholas Latifi. 16th is Alex Albon. 15th, Esteban Ocon. 14th, Valtteri Bottas. 13th, Fernando Alonso. 12th, Lance Stroll. 11th, Yuki Tsunoda. 10th, Sebastian Vettel. Number 9, Daniel Ricciardo. 8th, Pierre Gasly. 7th, Lando. 6th, Sergio Perez. 5th, I have George Russell. 4th, I have Leclerc. 3rd, I have Carlos Sainz. 2nd, Lewis. And numero uno, Max Verstappen. Yeah, those are our 20 picks. Before we end the episode, we're gonna, it is race weekend when this episode releases, so we're gonna give a quick prediction on who we think is just gonna podium for qualifying and then podium at the end of the race. Timmy, who do you have top 3 qualifying?
I'm gonna have Max pole position, Lewis in 2nd, and then Charles in 3rd.
I have Max 1st, Carlos 2nd, and Perez 3rd. Who do you have as the ending or the race podium?
I want to stick with the same.
So just say
Lewis. So Max wins. Am I gonna go Lewis 2nd? Yes, Lewis 2nd, and then Charles 3rd.
Okay. For my race podium, I have Max winning. I have Carlos 2nd, and I have 3rd is actually going to be Charles. I think it's going to be a Red Bull, Ferrari.
Ooh, spicy.
Yeah.
Where does Lewis land?
I think he gets 5th.
Who's 4th?
I think Perez.
Get your Red Bull fanboy. Get out of here.
I don't know.
Fifth.
I don't know. I think he does
You're
5th.
a hater.
No, I think Perez. How do I say this? I think Perez out-qualifies Lewis and like everyone else, but Perez is notoriously not the fastest starter. So that's when he gets caught by the Ferrari boy. And I don't think he challenges for 3rd. I think he defends 4th. So maybe Lewis snags him, but I think Perez holds him off. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
The only reason.
Call me crazy now, but next week Sunday, once we see it, don't be calling me crazy. Call me.
Lewis is only going to get 5th if his pit crew messes him up.
Well, you never know. We'll see.
Okay.
But with that being out of the way, before we end the episode, we have throughout the season for every race, we're going to be giving out awards. We have 5 awards here. They each have a name, and we'll go and explain it, each of them. I'll explain the first one. It's pretty simple. If you listen to any F1 content creator, podcast, YouTuber, they always give a driver of the day. Even F1 themselves give out a driver of the day, but instead of calling it driver of the day, we're going to be calling it the Dale Earnhardt Award. The Dale Earnhardt Trophy, whatever you want to call it. That's who we're going to be giving to, who Timmy and I deem as the driver of not only the day of the race day, but the whole weekend. So yeah, you want to explain the next one?
The second one is going to be the highest IQ play. So this means either this can be given to a team and or a driver, depending on what kind of high IQ tactics that they took to put themselves in a better position. We're naming this award after the legend, big brain man himself, big forehead, Peyton Manning.
You better watch out. B Biggs is going to come after you for the Peyton Manning hate.
He knows it's true.
You could list all 20 drivers in order on size 12 font too.
Double space.
But yeah, we're the highest IQ trophy is the Peyton Manning Award. And so, what would be an example to me of like a high IQ play?
High IQ play would be if you watch Drive to Survive, Nikita Mazepin, when in racing in Russia, he saw the dark clouds, and that being in his hometown, he knew that the rain was coming. So he pit way early or he pit earlier than everyone else, putting on intermediate, which are the wet tires, and then benefited from that because everyone else was spinning out and
Yeah.
losing traction because they waited too long. So that would be that. So he would have been he would have gotten the paint and mending award
Yeah.
that week.
Or
Or if a team, oh yeah, sorry.
Or like you're about to say, or if a team were to make the call, like if say McLaren overruled Lando that same race and said, no, come in, Lando, they would have got the high IQ thing or whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what that trophy would be. The next award is pretty easy. It's the meme of the weekend. So it could be qualifying, practice, race day, probably more than likely. But this award would be the Mark Sanchez Award, the butt fumble award. So, whichever, this could go to a team, a driver. This could even go to, I think people would make a case that you could give it to Michael Massey at the last race. He could have got the Mark Sanchez Award because of how royally he screwed it up. And so he got memed on a bunch. So that award is for everyone. Anyone could get it.
Even the commentators, no one's safe for Mark Sanchez.
Yeah. If Crofty goes and says something wild, meme of the weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next award is going to be the worst driver of the weekend, and we're calling this the Nate Peterman Award. It's pretty self-explanatory. You have the driver of the day for the race. For us, we're having the worst driver. So that could be someone who had just a terrible weekend for whatever reason, Max or Lewis or top end guy, just struggling and not performing up to expectation. Or it could be someone like Bottas crashing into everyone and causing a huge
pile up.
Yeah, there's only one word coming to my head. I'm like, we're gonna have to censor that, so I can't say it.
Yeah. So for those football fans who, I don't want to say if you were lucky enough to witness it or know the legend of Nathan Peterman, but yeah, the Nate Peterman Award, just the worst showing that day, throwing 5 picks or screwing up royally, earned the Nate Peterman Award. The last award we would be giving out every race weekend is the Big Body Award.
Big body.
We named it after Shaq, just get out my way type deal. And this is like an overtake type of award, whether we give it to the dude who has the most overtakes. Like for example, we could have given it to Lewis in Brazil when he started in 20th for the sprint race, and they got up to 10th and then went from 10th to 1st, just overtakes after overtakes, just piling it up. Or we could give it to the person who puts the most sauciest overtake, who had a pretty saucy one last year. Checo around Daniel Ricciardo in Spain. That was a pretty saucy one, going around the outside of turn 1. Could give it to him. So me and Timmy will go and look back and see if the sauciest one is enough to overrule, say, a quantity, or if there's just someone who went crazy that weekend, they would earn that award. And this, I don't know if I'd mentioned it, but this is based off of Shaq.
Yeah. And we'll also be asking for your guys' opinions. We'll be doing polls on our social medias on Twitter and Instagram. So be sure to go follow us at Redefined on Instagram and Twitter. And we'll be asking you guys on who you thought deserved these rewards every race weekend. So be sure to follow us. I said that 3 times.
That's all right.
But yeah, follow us. But we definitely want to to build a community, an interactive community. So we want to be able, that's the idea behind the award. So we can have interaction with you guys and kind of start building up a community that you can have fun with.
Yeah. I'm hoping that at the end of the season, we can add up who won the award the most and then give a big crowning achievement to each,
a yearly award kind of deal. Yeah.
Driver of the year, blah, blah, blah. But yeah. So with all that being said, we talked about who we think is going to be the 20 or the order of the 20. We talked about who we think is going to show out this upcoming race weekend. Mentioned our awards. Any closing thoughts you have?
Watch Drive to Survive if you haven't already. I binged all of it. Stayed up till 4:30 in the morning watching it. It's really good. They did a good job not over dramatizing too much. I hate Will, the F1 journalist. He messed up in the first episode by trying. He was like, "Oh, no one's ever challenged Lewis in 7 years, but Max this year's looking good." It's like, shut up. Like, I hate what you're trying to do, and you're annoying. Like, just say, "Oh yeah, Max is looking good."
Tell us how you really feel.
He was just trying. He was trying too hard. They put the camera and the light in front of him, and he's like, "Let me give this smoldering look and really emphasize on the dramatic part of F1." It's like, shut up. I hate you. And anytime he showed up, I was like, get this man off my screen.
So I went to school for film and whatnot, and it's whenever you want voiceover, when you're going and editing, you're like, man, I wish someone had just said this. I wish someone had just said that. Will Buxton is a filmmaker's dream because every single one of his lines is a tagline.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because he could be building up someone taking a crap. He just walked to the toilet, pulled his pants down, and got to business.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I didn't need to know that. You just made all of that sound way over dramatized. And so, like, he's just I can see why Netflix milks him because it's just he's always on there hyping up just the most thing. Like, it's crazy. So that's my closing thoughts. Will Buxton, overhyper. Or hype man of the century, hype man of the year, because he can make anything sound like Game 7 of the World Series. Crazy. But yeah, with that being said, that's a wrap for episode 5. You guys have a good one.
Explain the difference.
Yeah, Formula One is the pinnacle of motorsport.